Tēnā rā koutou, tēnā tātou. Tuia ki arangi nui e tūnei, tuia ki a papa tuanuku e takoto nei. Kia ra raungata poa e tangata e pūtanga āriki e pūtanga tauira kārongo. E whakarongo ake ki a koutou haramai nei. E ngā hau e whānau mai haramai. Nau mai haramai ki o koutou piri ngā whare, tenei te whare pare mata o Aotearoa o New Tirini. Nau mai haramai ki o koutou whare. Ki te whakanui atu rā a te kaunga o te hauora i huri rauna i te motu. Mai te hiku o te ika, mai te urunga mai o te rā ki tōna tōene, mai te kaurua i kanui, mai te wai paunamu. Nō reira nau mai, haramai, haramai. Tauri atu rā kia rātou kua whetūrangi tia, aha kua e nui ngā ingoa i whakahua teo mai rā o tia anō rā rātou kia rātou huri atu kia tātou. Me ki huri atu ki te kaupapa o te rā nei, tēnei kami. Tēnei kami hi rau atu rā ki tō tātou minita, tēnā koe e te minita, nau rā i whātoro atu rā te aroha kia ki te hunga tai mai nei, i tēnei ahi tēnā koe. Ngā mema o te whare pare mata tēnā koutou ki te tautoko atu rā i tō tātou minita me te kaupapa hoki. O te anō rā, tēnei he mihi rawa atu rā ki o koutou ngā ringa ngā waiwai, kia wahorai, kai o koutou hapori, mahi ana i wangi o koutou whānau, o koutou iwi, ara i roti o koutou takiwa. Nau mai haramai ki te tautoko atu rā te whakarewatanga o te kaunga o te hauora i wainga ki a tātou, ara mō ngā mukapuna, ngā tamariki, ngā taiohi, ngā rangatahi, ngā pakeke, ngā kaumātua, ngā kuia, ara tēnei te kaupapa o te rānei. Nō reira, kauri e te kūmiaro tēnei, te reo o te raukura, ai mihi kau ana ki a koutou tēnei te reo o te atiawa, he uri o te atiawa, he uri o Ngāti Toa, te mana whenua i konei i whakatau ki a koutou, o tia nora, kai rauri te mana nui o tō tātou minita, tēnā koe, nō reira tēnā koutou, kia ora tātou katoa. Kariau i waiatatia, o tia nora, he tono atu rā ki a koutou, mā tātou e waiatatia. Ki te whakapakiri atu rā, he mahi ngātahi tātou i pāna ki tēnei kaupapa. Nō reira, tu tira mai ngā iwi, tātou e. Tu tira mai ngā iwi, tātou e. Whai a te maramatanga, me te aroha e ngā iwi, kia taputahi ki a kotahira, tātou e, tātou e. What a wonderful way to start our afternoon. Nō reira. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to your MC for this evening, tēnā koe Dean York.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ka mihi mana ki a koutou, tia tātou. Ka mihi atu ki te rangatira e kura, mō tāna mihi ki a mihi ana. Nō reira, tēnā tātou katoa. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this launch of the Consumer Health Forum Aotearoa and the Code of Expectations for Consumer and Whānau Engagement. I'm Dion York. I'm the Director of He Hotiaki Partners in Care, which is the consumer and whānau work that we do at the Health Quality and Safety Commission. Without further ado, it now gives me great pleasure to introduce the Minister of Health. The Honourable Andrew Little is currently the Minister of Health, but that's not all. It's only part of a very busy portfolio. He's also Minister for Treaty of Waitangi negotiations and the Minister responsible for the GCSB, NZSIS and the Pike River re-entry. In addition, he has been appointed the lead coordinating minister for the government's response to the Royal Commission's report into the terrorist attack on the Christchurch mosques. He's devoted his whole life to advocating for New Zealanders, entering Parliament in 2011 with a mission to leave behind a better country, a New Zealand where everyone has the opportunities he would hope for his family. He grew up in Taranaki, now lives in Island Bay here in Whanganui-a-Tara. Minister, over to you. Thank you.
Tēnā tātou katoa. Thank you, Dean, for that introduction. Can I just acknowledge the many health leaders who are here this evening? I'm always terrified about naming names, but I can't miss out Professor Dai Safeti, the Acting Director General of Health. Just acknowledge also Dean Rangihuna, who's picking up a growing number of roles in the health system. But Dean, great to have you here and a great advocate for mental health, amongst other things, and bringing your lived experience to that kaupapa. Great to have you all here this evening. I know that this itself is a very important kaupapa as we refashion and reform the health system. So one of the things that we know we had to do with the health system, with its new structures and the values that we want to underpin it, is find a way to make sure that consumers of health services are recognised, but most importantly have means to have an input into the systems or the system that they are sometimes a part of. And not just health consumers as we call them, but their whānau as well, because whānau play a very important role in supporting those who are the recipient of health services, and also communities. For communities, knowing that the health services that they have in their community are working and are operating is a matter of their confidence in the system. So it's important that we have the means to do that. The Health Quality and Safety Commission has been around for a while. They've had a very important, I've just seen Elizabeth Kirikiri here too, so a parliamentary colleague, I can't overlook that. So great to see you, Dr. Kirikiri. Sorry, I tend to do this. I look around and see people, and at the end of the night there should be a chart where you get to tick names off to see whether I've got them all. But the Health Quality and Safety Commission has had that very important role in ensuring that there is a body independent of health providers themselves to oversee and make sure that the quality of the service that we as New Zealanders expect is actually being provided. In the Paiora Healthy Futures legislation that we passed this year to set up the reform system, we gave the Health Quality and Safety Commission a specific mandate to make sure that they set up systems to embrace and absorb consumer input and embrace the consumer advocacy that we know is out there. So sitting in my ministerial desk in the Beehive, I thought, well, this would be a reasonably easy task because we have some amazing organisations, in some cases long-standing organisations who've been around advocating for different parts or different functions of the health system. And really it was the role of the Health Quality and Safety Commission to sort of pull that together, which is what they've been doing, and then to set some expectations about what users, patients and their whānau and communities should expect of the system. So now we have a set of expectations about engagement, how the health system draws on the knowledge and understanding of lived experience of health services, or those providing health services and health treatment, what people can expect, and then how health entities should then embrace those expectations and make sure that they reorient part of their function to take that on board. So look, this is a great start, but it is just a start. And I think, like all these things, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. It's kind of what happens next. It's how we operationalise it. It's how we put it into practical effect, and get people engaging in it, get processes set up that actually see real people giving their input and their feedback. I know that part of that will be online, and Health Quality and Safety Commission has already set up an online forum, online platform to do that, but there will be ongoing evolution and development of that. It's all part of the reform process, which, as I said before, is we know we've had challenges in our health system in terms of delivery on equity. There are a lot of New Zealanders who miss out on health care. And so we have a ways to go if we're going to lift our equity performance. We will do that through a number of means, but one of those is through the support, or the greater support we give primary and community health care. It's also what we do in the front door of hospitals as well, indeed, as other health providers. We're very much, you'd expect, focused on public health services and indeed publicly funded health services. There are private health services around and about and so on as well. And I would expect that with the standards that we expect, these become expectations for the whole of the health system, the public and the private elements. And that is what we should continue to aspire to. So for those of you who have put this together and those of you who have already been engaged in it, thank you and congratulations in getting to this point. And I know that this will be very important to many people over the years ahead as we continue that journey to make our health system as responsive to our communities as possible, most importantly, providing better access and greater equity of access in a way that we haven't seen before. So I look forward to seeing us on the rest of that journey, because I know that will be very important to the sense of health and well-being to people. And that Margie Upper, I see, I've just talked about dignitaries. Chief Executive of Te Whatu Ora Health New Zealand, and I see Andrew Old there as well, so Deputy Director General of Public Health. If there are any other dignitaries or health leaders I haven't named, no offence intended, you are all important. This just happens to be some of the people I know and whose faces I recognise behind a mask, which isn't easy these days. It's one of the byproducts of COVID, as we've had to completely readjust our mental ability to recognise people when half their faces are obscured. But like on that note, as I said, congratulations to everybody and best wishes for the evolution that I know will take place with this. Thank you to all of those whose job is to oversee, to monitor, but most importantly, to advocate for the health system, for the best possible health system that we can get, who advocate on behalf of their communities or their people, patients and whānau in their particular areas. That work has always been vital. It will continue to be vital as we continue to shape up and continue our journey to perfect our health system just a little bit more. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tautu katoa.
Thank you, Minister, and certainly the proof will be in the pudding of how we all work together to make sure that the code of expectations becomes a reality for us and all the health entities. I just wanted to do a plug that the code is available over there on the resource table. It's going to be produced in multiple formats, which you can keep checking back on our website for, so look back for those with some early guidance on how to apply the code. So look out for that on the Commission's website. You can also follow the QR code as well. So I'm now delighted to introduce Dr. Dale Bramley, Chair of the Health Quality and Safety Commission. Dale is a public health medicine specialist and experienced senior leader within the health sector. He served as the Chief Executive of Waitemata District Health Board for 11 years and currently serves as the Interim Lead Hospital and Specialist Services for Te Whatu Ora. He is also an adjunct professor at AUT. His previous board appointments include the National Health Committee and the National Ethics Committee. Most recently, he was a member of the COVID-19 Independent Continuous Review Improvement and Advice Group to Government. Dale was appointed to the Health Quality and Safety Commission Board in 2014 and was appointed Chair by the Minister of Health in 2019. His iwi affiliations are to Ngāpuhi. Thank you, Dale.
Well, kia ora koutou. I won't fall into the trap of the Minister and try and see everybody in the audience that I know, but welcome. Ko te mihi tuatahi ki te atua. Kia ora koutou, rau rangatira mā, ka nui te mihi me te aroha ki a koutou. He mihi mahana ki a koe, Minister, and great to have you here to launch this. Look, this is a really exciting, or I should just acknowledge my boss, who is Margie Upper. That could be career limiting. Look, it is a pretty exciting day for us to be here to launch the code and also the Consumer Forum. I was thinking, firstly, what a great venue to launch it in, right? So this is the House of the People, and this is about putting the voice of the people right into the very centre of healthcare. So we couldn't have hoped for a better venue to launch this from, so our thanks to the Minister for that. The second thing is, I know I don't look this old, but last century, long ago, in a place called London, I was telling my wife that when I first started medical practice, we used to do ward rounds at a place, I was working at a place called St. Bartholomew's, and it was an incredibly hierarchical ward round. The professor would go first, then the specialist, the senior registrar, the junior registrar, senior medical officer, the house officer, junior house officer, intern, med students. And that's how you walked into the ward. And you couldn't go out of your queue, or you were gently pushed back into your queue at this particular place. And the thing was that in those days, we used to be introduced to patients by their pathology, not by their name. And this is in the 1990s. And now what are we doing today? We're launching a code of expectations that says patients, consumers, whānau, community at the very heart of the health service, and that all services should be designed as partners right from the very start of this conversation as we develop new services. So what a movement has occurred in 20, 30 years. And so I just wanted to thank there's so many people in this room who have made that journey possible, the strong advocacy that you have given to this journey to make it a reality. And as we rebuild and strengthen our health system, this goes in as a foundation block, as one of the very foundation blocks and pillars of our new health system, putting patients, consumers, whānau community back into the very heart of the system. So it's no longer what's a matter to you to what matters most to you, and how can we work together on that journey. So incredibly proud to be here to launch the code, to launch the forum, and also just to say thanks. My thanks to you all who have made this possible, to the people in the Commission who have worked tirelessly. And also just to say, as the Minister has said, we're at the start of another journey. This is not the end, it's the very start, and to look forward to working with you as we progress together into the future. Kia ora koutou.
Oh, thank you, Dale, and I'm glad that we're less pathologised these days. I'm happy to hear that. So when we talk about the voices of consumers, of whānau, of communities, we know that there are many, and this brings opportunity, richness and complexity. And our work's been built on these many voices of the community. So we're going to show you a brief video which highlights a very small snapshot of voice. These voices are going to share why they got involved and encourage involvement in the Consumer Health Forum.
Having your voice heard, like your experiences through health, and being able to speak and to have things heard, and out of that, you know, something is done.
As a trans woman, I think it's very important for our voices to be heard, and you know, we are a very forgotten sector of society.
Working with whānau, getting to hear these stories, getting to hear the issues, and I think it just intrigued me to think, well, I might have something to offer.
If I can bring some of my years of experience and background and knowledge, it means that our voices are being heard.
If you want something done, you need to step up and be a part of that.
If you don't have a voice, you have nothing. And if you've got the opportunity to give our public, our whānau, our community the voice, then that shapes Aotearoa.
And in fact, you can find those stars in the audience. We don't just play people on videos. You can find them all around here. And of course, the importance of involving consumers in whānau, it's clearly being highlighted this evening. And this goes beyond simply placing someone on a group. It's about involving those with lived experience at all levels in the design, delivery, development, and evaluation of our health sector. The Commission does this in many ways across the organisation. So one way that we do this is via our Consumer Advisory Group and Consumer Networks. So I now would like to introduce two stellar individuals who are part of the Commission's Consumer Advisory Group, Te Kāhui Mahi Ngātahi. So first, Russ Ayton. Russ is the chair of this advisory group. He's the current chair of the West Coast Consumer Council and chair of the National Consumer Council's Chairs Group. There's a lot of chairs in that, Russ. He also serves on the Commission's National Quality Forum and the chairs of Executive Group Strategic Forum. So before heading to Aotearoa, Russ worked in both the public and private sector in the UK, primarily in the National Health Service and Human Resources, organisational development and project management. Now he's a New Zealand citizen, so Russ and his wife have lived in Nelson Creek on the West Coast for several years, where he's involved with many groups in his community. He's interested in the challenges that living in a rural area and accessing equitable healthcare brings. His cardiac issues have meant inpatient stays in Grey Base and Christchurch hospitals, where he's experienced being in the system and the impacts of rural discharge on his partner and whānau. Next, Angie Smith, and certainly not least. Angie is a member of the Commission's Consumer Advisory Group as well, and co-chair for the Adverse Events Policy Review Working Rōpū of the Commission. Angie comes from Wairoa in Hawke's Bay and is passionate about serving her community as an advocate for health services. Her interest was prompted by her mother's own health experience and rehabilitation after a stroke. Swift responses from medical teams provided a positive outcome. The response could have potentially been more challenging had it happened at home, and this can be the case for many people living rurally, particularly Māori. So these experiences led Angie to join the Hawke's Bay Health Consumer Council as a community representative. Angie says it's a privilege to be in these roles and serve her communities, and she feels very strongly about best representing the interests of Māori, rural, older adult and health consumers. And as an aside, you may recognise Angie from the video just before. Her iwi affiliations are Ngāti Kahanunu, Ngāti Ruapaniki, Waikare Moana and Ngāti Tūhoi. So now, Angie and Russ, it's over to you. Thank you.
Kia ora koutou. Just to continue the theme. All right, Joe. What's up, Frank? Good to see you. Nice to see you again. Thank you, Health Minister Little and HQSC Board Chair Dr Dale Bramley for your comments about the Code of Expectations for health entities' engagement with consumers and whānau, which, for the sake of becoming too tongue-tied and potentially launching something completely different tonight, I'll just refer to as the code, if I may, as I move forward. I admit that I'd struggled being here tonight, the notion of. After the code date was launched, I was like, yay, here we go, this is it, we're finally getting things moving. But in a passing conversation with the newly appointed Director and Partners in Care, I was casually voluntold that I would, as chair of the Consumer Advisory Group to the HQSC board, be invited to speak. So here I am. The notion of speaking to you all about the code, to be honest, made me feel quite uneasy. But a good friend, not too far away, said, Russ, I feel a certain disquietness about you. I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling of being placed in an unknown situation, talking about something potentially quite personal, being in front of a group of people that I didn't really know. I drew a similarity of going to the cardiology cath lab in Christchurch Hospital for the first time with only a thin paper gown separating me from the outside world, and the similar disquiet that I felt then as a consumer. That was not lost on me. I knew I had to be there, but wasn't really sure on the what or the why. So, when the notes to Minister, Board Chair and the media brief of the code were circulated, I felt even more displaced and a little tad uncomfortable, and the sense of disquiet still pervade. What was I going to say about the code that hadn't quite eloquently already been said? I was a tad nervous about the what until somebody who, after listening to me woe, wail, natter, mutter for the umpteenth time, said, yeah, think of the opportunity. Ta-da! My bingo moment had arrived, albeit in two parts. Firstly, the analogy of place, intent and emotions I alluded to earlier in being in that paper thin gown in the cath lab started to make sense now. And secondly, finally, halfway into my speech, you'll be relieved to know, I actually knew what I was going to talk about. I'll take the word, if I may, opportunity, as a slice through the code, if you will. The Oxford Language Dictionary states opportunity as, and I quote, a time or set of circumstances that makes it possible to do something. So, like a good chair, I reread the code and the implementation guide again and revisited the structure of the HQSC consumer forums and how they will function in our communities at the locality, district, regional and national level. I went back to the QSM for consumer engagement that will be refreshed in our hospitals and specialist services, to the Titiriti o Waitangi in partnership with iwi models, and reflected on the ever-growing consumer groups such as the advisory group, Te Repu, the newly formed National Chairs and Co-Chairs group. You're right, there's a lot of chairs in there, I must do something about that. The consumer networks out there, and they all accord us, the consumer, the opportunity to have a conversation about our healthcare and pathways. For example, the code gives the family in Whānau the opportunity to engage health providers in designing a package of care around loved ones at home, their own community, their own bed. The code enables the opportunity for functionality in how policy and strategies are determined and accessing those too often closed decision-making tables and minds, but now demanding in black and white that the consumer is engaged at the earliest opportunity, doing it with us, not to us. Referencing their points 1.1, 2.1, 2.4 and 2.6 of the code. The code, thank you. The code levels the field and is a common denominator to the highest expectations, and I include the accountability for delivery of health services that are both equitable and fit for purpose. This is the opportunity that any consumer will expect. My sense as chair of the CAG in talking to local, national groups and the odd saged individual, you know who you are, is that the consumer is becoming aware that the disquiet they perhaps carry in those times and feel will find in the code a place for opportunity to feel comfortable and to talk. We must all ensure, therefore, that the code is implemented. It's down to every single person in this room. The challenge for us all is maintaining the voice from the floor to the ceiling. It's got to be that way round. To ensure that the health entities, the consumer Whānau communities are actually included in the design of those services. Referencing here points 1.1, 2.1, 2.4 and 2.6. Finally, the collaboration needed is huge, and different ways and thoughts to achieve the aspirations of the code are required. It's got to be. These need to be challenged and questioned at all levels, all of the time. I sense the right direction has been mapped. I would close by saying that the collaboration needs to be one of care and social engagement and not one of survival. And finally, a thank you to Janice for my opportunity. And now I'd like to hand over to Angie and her speech of the evening. Kia ora koutou. Thank you.
Tēnā tātou, kei aku nui, kei aku rahi. Tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Me pēhea rā he kupu mihi aroha. I tā koutou, i tā koha mai ai. Me ki pēnei pēr. Kua tau te kākara, o te pua ki te ringa o te kaitsuku. Tēnā rā koutou e hāpai ana i ngā mahi hei oranga mō tātou katoa. To all of you, to all of us who shared our stories, to the consumers, to our whānau, to our healthcare workers throughout Aotearoa, thank you. How do we respond to your generosity, to the gift of your stories that you have shared? Perhaps this way. The beautiful scent of the blossom rests on the hand of the giver. To all of us who had faith that our voices would be heard, we stand here today to acknowledge you all, to say thank you for being part of the forum. Thank you for your courage, your commitment, your generosity in sharing your stories. Your decision to participate in this process was not made lightly. It was to ensure that the focus remained on what matters to you and what matters to our wider community. These stories, these experiences have informed the review of the Code of Expectations 2022. The Honourable Andrew Little, Dr. Dale Bramley, tēnā kōrua. We endorse your acknowledgements, and our thanks also go to the Commission team for their hard work in pulling us all together and supporting us through the process. Nō reira, i ngā kaimahi, ngā mihi manahau ki a koutou katoa. Nā tō raurau, nā taku raurau, nā waiatua nō raurau, ka ora ai te iwi. Aides. Mā koutou e nei taonga o tira mā tātou katoa, e kore te au, o mihi e me mitsi noa. The whakatauki is familiar. It's familiar to many and its use is widespread. How appropriate it is for today. We are acknowledging everyone's contribution that has led us here in celebration. Our thanks and acknowledgement will never, never wane. Nō reira, huri noa i tēnei whare. Tēnā koe, te rangatira e kura, tēnā rawa atu koe. Huri noa i tēnei whare, tēnā tātou katoa. And now let us enjoy the next video, and I think I'm on it too. Anyway, an invitation to join the Consumer Health Forum Aotearoa. Kia ora.
You get to have a say.
That forum is huge.
For anybody, not just my community, but any of the diverse communities that we try and represent, they need to have a voice.
It's really positive to have as many voices and different perspectives as possible.
I represent my whānau, my hapu, my iwi. I represent the Māori voice from my community. So being able to be a part of something that's going to help us heal, that's very worth it. The time is worth it.
If you join the forum, then you are part of that voice, and therefore you become part of the solution, not part of the problem.
Well, thank you so much, Russ and Angie. You can put it in a way that only you two can, and it's a wonderful way. So with that, I'd just like to thank you all for being here and taking the time to celebrate with us. As you know, these things don't just magically happen, and I want to particularly acknowledge Tanea, Des, Zelda, Simona, and the entire Commission staff for really putting this together behind the scenes. And also, we don't get to these moments just like that. There is a lot of people, there are a lot of advocates that have come before us. And so I'd also like to acknowledge our former director, Dr. Chris Walsh, who can't be here this evening, but was also instrumental in the development of this work. So a hand for Dr. Chris Walsh too. Okay, and so with that, I now hand over to Kura to close us for the evening, and of course you're welcome to stay here and enjoy each other's company for the rest of the time we have together this evening. Thank you.
He karanga tēnei ki o koutou, e kore irihi mai rā a tētihi waiata. Just like to invite the rōpū to come up to the stage and join us in singing a song. And before we do that, I just want to do something. E whakarewa atura, I ka hiki te atura te kaupapa ki te ao. And I just want to close with a karakia, which is actually like that of launching a new canoe into the ocean. Higi te area kina apa pai ngā rangaranga hea tatapu ai o tēnei waka nei. Rere huru, rere amanu, rere take tū ai, keu ai, mani ai, pāki ai, aere ai tamaki tō ona tua wenua. Ka mate tama te ema kai puta, kai tua, kai wao, kai ia tama okotahi, kai ta moka pūrangi, ki te wai au, ki te ao marama. E rongo whakairi he kirunga turu o uti waka maua kia tīnā. Hui e. Aka pure ake nei, te kōrero, te kaunga o te hauora, e mākere mai ana, tēnei kaupapa, e hora pākera, ki runga i te motu nei, tēnā koutou, kia ora tātou katoa. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy the rest of your evening.